And then Elvis Presley recorded Blue Moon in Kentucky and made a Blue Moon of Kentucky. So he kind of brought it up in the thing. And as the story goes, somebody told Bill, he said, well, this rock and roller named Elvis Presley recorded your song, Bill. And Bill's like, sure, no. I said, well, Bill, they say he might sell about 1 million records on it. And reportedly, Bill said, well, then I want to help him all we can.
He said there was powerful checks.
Powerful checks.
They probably were powerful checks.
Powerful checks.
Tell us about Meeting Bill.
Meeting Bill?
Yeah, did you ever meet him?
Did I ever meet him? Oh, yeah. Yeah, Bill. Well, let me just say this. I miss Bill Monroe. I miss having him around. I miss looking up to him, you know, as the father of bluegrass music, as the guy that started this stuff. He's like Muddy Waters. He's it, man. And yeah, I met Bill as a young kid fiddler, actually, and I always, you know, had a dream of maybe playing with Bill, either his guitar player maybe, or playing fiddle with him, or what have you. And so we used to make these pilgrimages up from Bowling Green, Kentucky, before they started having the Bean Blossom Music Festival. You know, the Monroe family owned that land at the Bill Monroe Brown County Jamboree, it's called. So Sunday afternoon shows. So you go up and Bill and the Bluegrass Boys play on Sunday afternoon. You go eat dinner somewhere, and then they play a 7 p.m. show. So I'd come to know a couple of the guys in his band. Byron Berline was on fiddle.
Yeah.
Roland White was playing guitar. And Roland was a great mandolin player and had this beautiful mandolin Randy Wood made that I'd never seen one like that before. So we were standing there jamming. And like I say, Bill knew me as a kid fiddler, and he would let me play a little bit with the Bluegrass Boys when they would open the show for 20 minutes. But I didn't get to play with Bill. No, not you, buddy. So Bill knew me as the kid fiddle player, and so we were jamming, and I was playing Roland's mandolin, and I didn't know Bill was standing behind me for like 10 minutes since I'm playing Roland's mandolin, and I was really more of a mandolin player then. And so at the end of the thing, Bill just said, all right, boys, let's pack it up. We've got to get ready for the next show. And he looked at me and he said, and I want you to stay with that fiddle. So we ain't got enough good young fiddlers coming up. I want you to stay on that fiddle now. I thought, I'm a mandolin playing son of a gun, Bill. I want to learn everything you do. So, yes, I did get to meet Bill and be around him. And you know, he didn't like our long hair and our hippie ways. You know, but he came around. You know, Bill was, in the year of 1982, I had my first bout with cancer, and it was serious. And he called me in the hospital, you know, and it was like, if you think getting a call from Bill Monroe doesn't make you feel a little better, it did, you know, and he told me he'd help me however he could, and he played benefit for me, and it was quite humbling, you know, to accept that. And so, yeah, Bill came around, and so years later, he was hiring the Newgrass Revival to play on his festivals, and, you know, I heard him say to a friend of mine once that wrote a tune that sounded just like a Bill Monroe tune. He played it for Bill, and Bill said, well, that's great, now what can you do on your own? So I really think he wanted us all to admire and respect his music, but I think he expected us to have our own too, and so that's what I took from that. So I think he wanted you to have your own music. Yes, sir?
I saw in a Tony Rice interview one time that he took some licks from you that he uses on guitar. Are there any things that you take from guitar that you use on mandolin?
Oh, I'm sure we both do, yeah. I mean, when I was in high school, my big lick was this when I was in high school. That's Jorma Kaukonen and Jefferson Airplane. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I've always loved guitar players, and I don't know if you do, John. I suffer from the mandolin player's disease of thinking I can play guitar.
And I, you know, played guitar long before I got hooked on the mandolin, and some of those, you know, habits of guitar, especially electric guitar, doing pull-offs, and it's not easy to do on the mandolin, but you know, it's sort of ingrained, especially with bluesy things too. You know, that you pick up on guitar, because the guitar is a bigger body, bigger strings, more sustained, so all those little pull-offs just ring out. So you got to take that to the mandolin.
I know I have Eric Clapton ingrained in me. It's like I caught myself doing it the other night. We were playing a funk tune, and I caught myself going. Totally Eric Clapton lick, but it doesn't sound like that on the mandolin. Or, you know, and not just guitar. I mean, you can take other instruments and learn things. I won't pretend to act like I know a lot of John Coltrane on the mandolin. That's not a reality. But when I was in high school, a buddy of mine gave me this record called Best of Atlantic Jazz on Atlantic Records. And John Coltrane was playing probably the simplest song he ever recorded, which was My Favorite Things, his version of that. And it was just, there was a phrase he played in that for the first time ever, I could understand the John Coltrane lick, and probably because it was in the simplest tune he ever recorded, and the hillbilly could finally get it. And so, you know, just like, well, I never heard that before. So when you lease, or you know, piano licks, but yeah, guitar of course is an obvious thing to draw from, and so sure, we learn from all instruments. If you're paying attention, there, yeah, you can't just. Obviously, you want to learn the mandolin things and what I want to hear others that came before me. I want to play that too, but guitar is a world of knowledge you can go from.
What about process and method for learning new music?
Sorry?
Like, how do you guys learn new music? Do you learn new tunes, new repertoire? Like, what's part of your process?
Well, for me, you know, and I don't get around too many picking sessions anymore anyhow, because we're so often into a festival and right on out. But it seems like every summer I'll come back with a running list of tunes that I realize I ought to know, or knew once and forgot, or just never got around to learning, and think, okay, I got to go sit down and learn, you know, this tune because it came up in a jam and I'm just not sharp on it, and I'll go after that if I remember to follow through. But then more just, you know, if you just hear something that really turns you on or catches your ear, and you want to dive in and study that. I mean, there's so much out there.
John, you mentioned reading music. Do you ever like pick up pieces of manuscript of music that's the way you learn some tunes?
Yes, yeah, definitely from that, and I, you know, also enjoy the transcribing things. You know, taking a tune and working it through and then writing it down. Mostly because my brain won't remember the notes, but if I've written it down, I can go back to it at some point, especially if it's something that it's too fast for me to learn right off. You know, I guess I'm a bit of a graphophile. I like to write things out and save them. So, you know, somewhere in one of my notebooks, I have a note for note written out thing of this.
Can I borrow that notebook?
And it's in tune in the notebook too. So, you know, studying the brilliance of others and writing it down, carrying it with you throughout life is a big thing.
I guess for me, learning new. I mean, of course, I like to learn new tunes, but as a singer, I've always had trouble remembering words all my life. It doesn't come naturally. So I'm learning songs. I'm trying to remember Bob Dylan lyrics. But I find myself in situations where, for instance, I was invited recently, back in May, to participate with a French guitarist named Stéphane Rambel, and it's Django Reinhardt music, and he invited me to this gig called Django A Go-Go in New York, and there were 12 people with Macaferry-style guitars playing like Django Reinhardt. Wow. And I know some Django Reinhardt tunes, but I'm certainly not well versed in it. So for me, it was like putting yourself in a situation where you got to sink or swim, and I had to learn, you know, they were like certain Django Reinhardt tunes had always been a mystery to me that I had to, okay, I got 2 weeks and I got to learn these tunes. So that's where you sit down and you really start honing in. And boy, much to my delight, since the last time I tried to learn Nuage by Django Reinhardt, which is a mystery, was a mystery. I could not figure it out. Now, I take this out and I go, how do I play Nuage? And there's a video of a guy teaching me Nuage. So it's amazing. Even old Sam will go to some technology.
Yeah, it is incredible the resources that are out there right now. And, you know, I remember when I was first getting into this kind of music, it was before I at least was connected to the internet, so I don't know if they had internets then, but there was a company out of Michigan called Elderly Instruments, and they had a catalog of instruments and an amazing vintage instrument catalog you could drool over, but also cassettes, CDs, maybe you remember those, and books about mandolin instruction, and I would go through that and put it in an order and get, you know, every Sam Bush record in there, and Jack Tottle's book about mandolin with the blue cover with the mandolin leaning up against the tree. And
did you notice in Jack Tottle's book, everybody else is playing their mandolin? There's a picture of me putting a string on. Yeah. That was kind of my normal pose in the 70s.
I think you're wearing a Grateful Dead shirt in that picture too, aren't you?
Yeah. No, that might have been my JA, my Jefferson Airplane shirt.
You want to play Minor Swings, since you mentioned Django?
Sure,
I mean, the dog minor?
Yeah, we'll play one here.
Well, I mean, since we're doing that, but I was going to ask about the large trove of John Hartford fiddle tunes that have recently come out. Have you heard any of those, or have anyone come to you and asked you to play or anything like that? Do you know anything about that? Or
Heard of them, I am one. I was talking about John Hartford's book of fiddle tunes that just came out. Yeah, I mean, and much to my surprise, John had written a song called Sammy's Bush. That's in there, and there's another tune that he made up. Hey, come on. Jethro wrote a tune called Sam's Bush. I won't go further with comments. But I've just gotten that. I was receiving mail, so and I apologize. I have not learned Sammy's Bush yet because I can read music, but very slowly. It's like a learning aid for me. There's a classic joke. How do you get an electric guitar player to turn down? Put a piece of sheet music in front of him.